TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem, and in today's top stories. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stresses to U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin that Jerusalem-Washington defense partnership is crucial in dealing with the many threats confronting both countries. Iran pledges that if Israel is found responsible for the Natanz nuclear facility bombing, the Jewish state will face the consequences. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan reaffirms Turkey's commitment to its maritime demarcation agreement with Libya, a document which caused tensions to boil with Greece in the eastern Mediterranean. Jerusalem regards the U.S.-Israel defense partnership as crucial in dealing with the many threats confronting both countries. In a joint press conference with visiting U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asserted that in contrast to voiced claims in Tehran, the Ayatollah regime has never given up its quest for nuclear weapons and the missiles to deliver them.
As you know, the U.S.-Israel defense partnership has continually expanded over successive administrations. And our cooperation is crucial in dealing with the many threats confronting both the United States and Israel. Threats that you are very familiar with from your distinguished service in Iraq and by your command in CENTCOM. In the Middle East, there is no threat that is more serious, more dangerous, more pressing than that posed by the fanatical regime in Iran. Iran continues to support terrorists around the world in 5 continents, threatening civilians everywhere. Iran has never given up its quest for nuclear weapons and the missiles to deliver them. And Iran consistently and outrageously calls for Israel's annihilation and works towards that goal.
In light of the Islamic Republic's consistent and outrageous calls for Israel's annihilation, despite the known horrors of war, Jerusalem cannot and will not allow Iran to obtain nuclear weapon capabilities.
Mr. Secretary, we both know the horrors of war. We both understand the importance of preventing war, and we both agree that Iran must never possess nuclear weapons. My policy as Prime Minister of Israel is clear. I will never allow Iran to obtain the nuclear capability to carry out its genocidal goal of eliminating Israel. And Israel will continue to defend itself against Iran's aggression and terrorism.
Secretary Austin, for his part, reaffirmed the Biden administration's strong commitment to Israel and its people.
Today, I was also grateful for the opportunity to meet with the Prime Minister to discuss a number of security issues that are important to our two countries. And I wanted to reaffirm the administration's strong commitment to Israel and to the Israeli people. And that's why I thought it was important that we meet face to face and to express our earnest desire for close consultations with Israel as we address shared challenges in the region. And I also wanted to underscore my personal pledge to strengthening Israel's security and ensuring Israel's qualitative military edge.
The Pentagon chief further underscored Washington's position, which regards U.S.-Israel relations as central to regional stability and security.
The close and strong ties that we enjoy with Israel are central to regional stability and security in the Middle East, and we both agree that we must continue to work closely together to enhance the U.S.-Israel strategic partnership. And so we discussed ways to deepen and expand our long-standing defense relationship in the face of regional threats and other security challenges.
Following his meeting with Israeli Premier, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin departed Israel for Europe. Meanwhile, in Washington, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki stressed that the United States was not involved in the attack on Iran's Natanz nuclear enrichment facility. Therefore, the indirect talks between Washington and Tehran are expected to proceed in Vienna unhindered.
Well, we of course have seen the reports of the incident at the Natanz enrichment facility. The U.S. was not involved. in any manner. We have nothing to add on speculation about the causes or the impacts. I will say on your first question, though, we are focused on the discussions that we expect to proceed this Wednesday in Vienna. To the diplomatic discussions that have been taking place and took place last week. We expect them to be difficult and long. We have not been given any indication about a change in participation for these discussions.
While no concrete progress has been reported as of yet, China's ambassador to the United Nations, who was present in last week's deliberations, voiced Beijing's optimism about progress toward viable consensus, which would allow for both the United States and Iran to return into full compliance with the 2015 nuclear agreement.
As of now, all parties have been narrowing down their differences, and we do see the momentum for a gradually evolving consensus.
Naturally, China, which sustained crippling sanctions itself for defying U.S. sanctions on Iran, regards the immediate lifting of sanctions as a key issue to reviving the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, which is the technical term for the 2015 nuclear deal with Iran.
Okay. The sanction lifting is a key, not only a key concern to the Chinese, but also a key issue bearing on the success of how to get US and Iran back to full compliance. We do think that all JCPOA-related sanctions, these are illegal.
China has not been the only country to sustain American sanctions over continued business with Iran. Russian companies have also suffered from U.S. sanctions, consequently pressuring Moscow alongside Beijing to have the JCPOA revived as soon as possible. In a first visit to Tehran this year, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov held an extensive meeting with his Iranian counterpart, Mohammad Javad Zarif, during which the two top diplomats discussed the urgency of revitalizing the 2015 deal.
Предметно обсудили ситуацию вокруг совместного всеобъемлющего плана действий по иранской ядерной программе. Как вы знаете, путь к сохранению плана, мы это не раз подчеркивали, лежит исключительно через его последовательную и полноценную реализацию всеми вовлеченными сторонами в строгом соответствии с резолюцией Совета Безопасности 2231. Мы рассчитываем, что СВПД удастся сохранить, и Вашингтон, наконец, вернется к полному выполнению указанной резолюции Совета Безопасности, что, в свою очередь, создаст предпосылки для соблюдения всех требований ядерной сделки Ираном. Насколько мы понимаем, партнеры в Тегеране выражают готовность незамедлительно двигаться в этом направлении при соответствующих шагах, которые требуются от Соединенных Штатов. Мы поддерживаем ведущиеся сейчас на Венской площадке переговоры и осуждаем любые попытки сорвать эти важнейшие переговоры.
The Ayatollah regime's top diplomat, for his part, seized the opportunity to voice Tehran's outrage over Sunday's explosion, which incapacitated Iran's Natanz nuclear facility, allegedly by Israel. Moreover, Minister Zarif vehemently rejected the notion the incident caused Iran to lose significant leverage versus the West amid the indirect talks in Vienna.
اونچه که در نتنز انجام شد خیال میکنند که اهرم‌های ایران رو کم بکنه. این در واقع ایران رو برای ایران امکان پذیر میکنه که به طور قانونی و به طور مشروع و برای جبران این حماقت تروریستی از هر امکانی که داره در نتنز استفاده کنه.
The Iranian foreign minister further underscored that if, following an internal investigation, Israel would be found responsible, the Islamic Republic would respond accordingly.
ما خودمون تحقیقاتمون رو انجام میدیم. اگر تحقیقاتمون رو انجام دادیم و اسرائیل مسئول بود، اون وقت اسرائیل پاسخش رو خواهد گرفت و اون وقت خواهد دید که چه حماقتی انجام داده. مطمئن باشید که دست ایران پس از این اقدام هم در مذاکره هم در آینده هسته‌ای قوی‌تر خواهد شد.
Turning to the Turkish capital Ankara, where President Recep Tayyip Erdogan declared, alongside visiting Libyan Prime Minister Abdulhamid Dbeibeh, that Turkey and Libya remain committed to the 2015 Maritime Demarcation Accord in the Eastern Mediterranean, which at the time was the root cause for a rapid escalation of tensions between Turkey, Greece, and Cyprus.
Libya ile deniz yetki alanlarına ilişkin imzaladığımız mutabakat muhtırası her iki ülkenin milli menfaatini ve istikbalini güvence altına almıştır. Aziz kardeşim Sayın Dbeibeh de bu muhtıranın Libya'nın milli menfaatlerine uygun olduğunu müteaddit kereler duyurmuştur. Ötesi bizim açımızdan lafı güzaftır. Bugün bu husustaki kararlılığımızı tekrar teyit ettik.
The statement by President Erdogan was ironically made at a time when Greek Foreign Minister Nikos Dendias held a working visit with Libyan Deputy Prime Minister Hossein Attia Abdulhafiz al-Qatrani, during which he thanked his host for his, quote, direct stance on the illegal memorandum signed by the GNA administration and Turkey on the maritime zones, which the Libyan House of Representatives had not yet ratified, despite Turkish pressure to do so. Thank you for watching us. As part of TV7 Israel's prayer initiative, I would like to encourage you today to join myself and the team here in Jerusalem to lift up Ethiopia once again in prayer for its salvation and peace, alongside prayers for our persecuted brothers and sisters around the world, in addition to our ongoing prayers, of course, for the peace of Jerusalem and the salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Tov U'Mevorach, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.